In combat sports, the greatest nights are the ones where history hangs in the balance, nights when the lights feel brighter, when the air feels heavier, and when two men step forward knowing their names will be etched forever in the story of this sport. This is one of those nights. Islam Makhachev, the man who conquered the lightweight division, the fighter who carried Dagestan's legacy with pride, now vacates his crown and dares to climb higher. Standing across from him is Jack Della Maddalena, the welterweight champion of the world, the pride of Australia, the man who turned failure into fire and hunger into gold. Two champions, two destinies, one defining clash for the welterweight championship. Islam Makhachev had already done it all at lightweight. He had silenced doubters, defended his throne, and carried on the dynasty left behind by his mentor, Khabib Nurmagomedov. He had proven that the mountains of Dagestan still produced kings. Men carved by discipline, hardened by struggle, and defined by unshakable will. But there comes a point in a champion's career where holding onto a belt is no longer enough. For Islam, defending lightweight gold again and again was safe, but safety is not legacy. He looked at the belt, the title, the division, and saw that it was no longer the challenge it once was. So he did the unthinkable. He let go of his crown. He vacated the lightweight championship, not because he couldn't defend it, but because he wanted more. He dared to walk into a division where the men are bigger, stronger, more dangerous. He dared to test himself at welterweight against a reigning champion in his prime. This was not about greed. This was not about arrogance. This was about greatness. True champions are not satisfied with comfort. They are driven by the fire to test their limits, to risk everything they have built for something that could elevate them forever. If Islam represents tradition, Jack Della Maddalena represents transformation. His journey is the story of a fighter who was never meant to be here, at least not according to the odds. He lost his first two professional fights, two crushing defeats that might have ended the dream before it even started. Many fighters never recover from that kind of beginning, but Jack was different. He refused to let those losses define him. Instead, he rebuilt, he worked, he sharpened. He came back not as the same man, but as a new one, a fighter with purpose, precision, and a hunger that could not be denied. Win after win, Jack climbed. His style caught the eyes of fans worldwide. Crisp boxing, relentless pressure, an aura of composure inside the chaos. He didn't just win, he made it look inevitable. He fought his way through contenders, broke through the ceiling, and finally captured the welterweight championship. For Jack, the belt is more than gold. It is proof. Proof that early stumbles don't define your journey. Proof that resilience builds greatness. Proof that hunger, when combined with dedication, can turn doubt into destiny. Now, as champion, Jack stands not as the underdog, but as the man holding the throne. The man Islam Makhachev must go through to claim history. This is not a fight between a champion and a challenger. This is a fight between two champions, one defending his division, the other chasing history. Islam Makhachev brings with him the aura of Dagestan, a fighter forged in tradition, carrying the responsibility of a dynasty. For him, moving up is not just about personal ambition. It is about proving that Dagestan's dominance knows no limits. Jack Della Maddalena brings with him the hunger of Australia, a fighter who has built his story from setbacks, who has turned failure into fuel, and who now stands at the top of his division, refusing to let anyone take what he has earned. It is legacy versus hunger, responsibility versus resilience, the proven king versus the hungry lion who has already claimed his crown. What unites these two men, despite their differences, is dedication. Dedication is what carried Islam through the pressure of following in Khabib's footsteps, through the weight of expectation that said he must continue the Dagestani dynasty. Dedication is what pushed him to vacate his lightweight belt and risk everything in a heavier division. Dedication is what carried Jack through those first two losses, through the doubts, through the voices that told him he wasn't cut out for this. Dedication is what allowed him to rise from those ashes, to rebuild himself into a world champion. Dedication is the great equalizer. It does not care where you are from, what resources you had, or what odds stood against you. Dedication rewards those who refuse to quit. And in this fight, both men are proof of its power. Yes, this is for the welterweight championship of the world, but in truth, it is more than that. For Islam Makhachev, this is about carving his name alongside the rare few who dared to conquer two divisions. It is about risking what is comfortable for what is eternal. For Jack Della Maddalena, this is about validation, defending his throne not against just anyone, but against a man many consider the best pound-for-pound fighter alive. Beating Islam would not just be a title defense, it would be the statement of his career. And for the fans, for the world, this is a reminder of what fighting is truly about. Not just belts, not just records, but about willpower, sacrifice, and the pursuit of something greater than yourself. When we watch Islam versus JDM, we are not just watching two men trade strikes, we are watching two stories unfold before us. We are watching a Dagestani warrior who chose risk over comfort, who walked away from a division he ruled to prove that greatness knows no boundaries. We are watching an Australian champion who turned early defeat into destiny, who built himself brick by brick until he wore gold around his waist. We are watching the collision of dedication, the meeting of two men who prove that greatness is earned, not given. And we are reminded in our own lives, whether we are chasing titles or simply chasing better versions of ourselves, the key is the same: dedication. No matter who has their hand raised when the final horn sounds, the lesson will outlive the fight. Dedication creates champions. Dedication builds legacies. Dedication turns doubters into believers. Islam Makhachev and Jack Della Maddalena may come from different corners of the world, but they are bound by the same truth: the refusal to quit, the refusal to settle, the refusal to let anything stop them from chasing greatness. And that is why this fight matters. That is why it inspires. That is why, years from now, we will remember it not just as a clash for the welterweight belt, but as a collision of two destinies shaped by dedication.